So stay tuned, it'll be a couple days. Let's go take a look. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a few days. I cannot lie. I had a little head cold and it kind of slowed me down for a couple days and had to do a couple other things, and so yeah, it's just been a handful of days, but we got all our parts for the Saratoga here, and we've also kind of made an executive decision to dig just a little bit deeper now. So we had coolant in the oil and quite a bit. We know this. Head gaskets not torqued properly. The heads check out fine. The block checks out fine. We did all that with a straight edge down to 3 thou. Life is pretty good, but the other issue is this has got green coolant in it. The good old stuff. Well, the problem with the good old stuff is the ethylene glycol, whatever, the science in it, when it mixes with the engine oil, and when it gets to the internals of the engine, especially main bearings and rod bearings, it can pit and corrode the nickel and alloy coating on the main bearings and rod bearings that make them, you know, do the bearing thing. Here's where we're at with this particular engine. The pan, the sump of the pan, it's a center sump. You got the main cross, front cross member here, and you got the steering linkages on the back side of the control arms. And so the coolant, for the most part, would have been down in this area of the pan. The bearings dip down to about here, and the crank sits up there. You can tell because of this low part up here. You know, this is mostly just a holding, and then the pickup draws it and pulls it up when it runs. So there's been coolant through it, but it hasn't been, it's not like the bearings have been sitting in raw coolant. However, it was a lot of coolant. And we got our gasket kit, we got an oil pan gasket, so it just makes sense. We're gonna go ahead and drop, I think if we drop the steering linkages from this pitman arm on this side and then this idler arm on this side, we can drop the steering linkages down far enough that we can then get the pan off without raising the engine. And we're gonna go ahead and pull probably a main cap and a rod cap and take a look. Now, if this was a $700 field find rescue Ford pickup truck, and we had the same circumstances, I'd probably say let's fix the problem with the head gasket, throw some oil in it, clean it out, flush it out with new fresh oil and a new filter a couple times, and let her ride. But this is a nice car. This isn't that $700 field rescue, and we need to make sure that life is good internally in this engine. And we already have a concern, or I do anyway, about torque specs. So we got two reasons to go ahead and take this extra step. Number one is we need to check the bearings and make sure they still look like bearings and will react like bearings when we get this thing bolted back together. And number two, we need to check and make sure the rod caps and the main caps are torqued properly. All right, we got her loosey-goosey. Wasn't too bad. You pop out the linkages from the drag link, and then you take off the idler arm from the frame over here. We should have plenty of room as long as there's nothing here that we gotta circumvent. It gets too crazy here, so we'll find out. in moments from now. Oh yeah, we're coming right out, I think. Well, I thought. Can we do this? How about, nope. Huh. The pickup tube comes from the front, which is all right. We're okay with that, but here we go. Here we go, just like that. And remember me, watch this, because when we go back in, remind me, this is the way we got to go back in. And there's the pickup. And there's, that's pretty gross. I'll show you that here in a second. At the moment, yuck. We've had, yeah, coolant through the oil. However, yeah. Okay, I'm staying optimistic. So here's what we're talking about. In the engine, see the rods and the mains are up here above even pan level. So the hope is that even though some coolant went through there, that as this car sat, it drained down. We don't have a lot of contamination on the crank ears. Looks like that's all been machined. This engine has definitely been rebuilt. But obviously where the coolant has sat down in the bottoms, we're not too happy here, but we can clean all that up. All right, let's get you over here to the bench. I'm much less optimistic now, all of a sudden. Here is the inside of the oil pan. Now, and like I said, the stuff that coolant drained off of back, or this is the front of the pan, that's way out of the oil coolant mixture. It's fine. It is completely fine. No contamination there at all. But where, you know, our fill level is right about here, and then look over here at this stuff. This is just, yeah, not good. And then down in the bottom, we've got a lot of goo. Now, the concern is that mixed with, you know, goo is bearing material. And that's a lot, you guys. It's just a lot. It doesn't feel, kind of gritty, but kind of not. All right, so let's dig this out. Some of this is just rust growth from the tin of the pan, but I'm afraid some of this is stuff that is washed down in here. And in a clean, brand newly rebuilt engine, you're gonna get some stuff in the break-in period that'll wash down and then just kind of sit here, but not this much. Let's scoop all this out and see what the pan looks like underneath, and then we're gonna have to pull some bearing caps and see what we got going on. All right, here's our pan cleaned up, and you can see where the coolant and the acidity just in random places down here just attacked the metal. And so here's the totality of what we grabbed out and poured out and scraped out. Now, to be fair, Not a lot of silver shavings that you're seeing, but I don't know how you would see them in that mess anyway. And when this corrodes, I mean, you can see there's deep pitting. In fact, when I started scraping on this, and we still got more scraping to do, we're going to have to almost be careful that we don't have any pinholes that are going to make leaks in our oil pan. But yeah, so when this corrodes, it's kind of like rust on the outside of a car. It'll grow and it'll fester, and so that's some of this is that. And I guarantee you go outside in any of our Ford trucks or the International, the DeSoto, you see where this drain plug is, and there's easily, you know, a ½ inch right there at the valley, but then probably a ¼ inch all the way around here that never gets drained. You know, old engines are going to look like that. The problem with that on this one is it's been rebuilt, and it shouldn't have, it doesn't seem to have very much time or hours at all on it since the rebuild. I think this is excessive is what I'm saying. So we're gonna go back over to the car and pull a cap or two, at least one main cap, at least one rod cap, and we're gonna shoot towards the center of the engine and see what we find. Okay, we've got the number 3 main loosened up here. We're gonna tippy tap and wiggle wobble. And see if we can't get it to pop down here. Could have cleaned off my brass hammer, I suppose, huh? Come on. There it comes. Okay. Good thing is there's some torque on these bolts, so that's a positive. And here's the moment of truth. I can't tell underneath here. We got to get out on the bench in better light. On these big block Mopars, in the back, you can't pull the rear main cap loose right out of the gate because there's this seal carrier. This seal carrier has the bottom half of the lip seal, rear main seal, and then it also has seals that run up each side and go up into the cavity in the block and then seal off the back of the crank. But you can't get a wrench or a ratchet onto these main cap bolts with this guy in here. So I built a little tool. It's gonna go on the extension of my slide hammer, my little slide hammer. I've already got her loose. I mean, it wants to come down, but this is going to screw into here, and there's cap screws here and here that are super long that we've got out already. And then we're just going to pop this down, and that should pull that right out. I'll put you guys over here so you can watch along. And you'll get something out of this video that's not horrible news, at least a tip, huh? Just a tip, something like that. So watch, yeah, we're watching that thing right there. Where's my little slide hammer? I don't know. Now this dude is aluminum, so we're gonna make sure we get all the threads, and we're not gonna be too, you know, aggressive. We just need it to let go. There we go. There. So you got these side seals and then the rear main seal. Now we can get to our rear main cap. And what we're going to do now is we're going to loosen all 5 of the main caps. And then I'm going to try to roll out that center bearing and see if the top half is grooved. Because they make grooved, fully grooved, half grooved, and then I think there's a solid bearing that is an option as well. So let's get these cracked loose just a little bit, and then we'll see about getting that other half of that bearing out. Okay, we got the upper half of that number 3 main and it's dark. And I'm just gonna tell you, when you rub your finger across here, it's not slimy, it's not slippery, it wants to grab. And I mean, look, see, that's what we're worried about right there. We don't want that. So anyway, we also pulled number 4 because I'm going to pop this out so I can get the right number off of it. And here we go. This is why, you know, we only pulled one, but we've got the actual top layer is breaking down, it looks like to me. And that is not kosher. Again, if I rub it real hard, I'll get some of that gray off. Yeah, this is the right thing to do. Tell you what, I'm going to get them ordered, and this is to be continued. We're going to go ahead and turn this vidya into rolling in new main bearings on a big block Mopar. So stay tuned, it'll be a couple days. Well, dudes and dudettes, I think I have some just heartbreaking news on the 1959 Saratoga Golden Lion. I think I found a crack in the engine block. Well, I'm sure I found a crack in the engine block. I'm going to switch over to my phone now so I can zoom in and stuff, but it just ain't good. Okay, so we were under here, we got all the mains done and started working on rods. And as we started that, I started noticing, you know, not a huge deal, but there's junk like on here. There's some goo from coolant and oil mixed. This is the webbing that supports the next to last main. And then up in here, there's goo on the back side of this. Now, let me see, I gotta get my phone around. And then additionally, there was, how can I get to where I can see it? Good. Oh, here, I gotta turn the phone over. There we go. And up in here, there was a line that came down and went over. And I thought, that's weird. And I just kind of attributed it to water coming out of this cylinder when the engine sits after it's been run. I cleaned it all up, no crack to the naked eye. And then I went back about my business. And then, if you can see, after about 10 minutes, it's not gonna focus. I'll try to zoom in, but right here, there's a shiny droplet of green coolant. It's not running down from the cylinder. It's just appearing right there. So it's clear as day. I mean, you can't see the crack, but I went in and grabbed supper. It's getting later in the day and come back out now. I'm gonna touch it. I touched it once with my finger and tasted it. It's definitely coolant. And now the drip is big enough that I can catch it on my finger again. And this is what we're looking at. So yeah, so now what we're gonna do is prepare ourselves for having to deliver some really craptacular news to our customer. In the meantime, I'm gonna get up in here and clean as much of this as possible. I wanna see, and then I'm gonna put some water in the engine block up top. I wanna see if we get any other dribbles. I'm worried about that. Now, here's the deal. This is the 383 raised block. They only used them, they only made them for 2 years, 59 and 60. To find another one, I'm gonna call it impossible. Dudes and dudettes, this is a next year alert. It has been several weeks. We're into 2026 with this vidya. And I think we've got us some plans. Now, when I first shot that last clip, I jumped in the house, climbed all over the internet, and found some information that said, oh yeah, you can just take any old 383 or B block. It'll bolt up to the bell housing. You bolt things up and you're good to go. That's not accurate. It has to be an RB engine. So that at first was a little daunting, but then you get to thinking, well, there were other RB engines. So we're talking 413s. I think there's a 361 maybe, but we're going to concentrate on 413s and 440s for the purposes of our plan moving forward. So I figured that much out on my own, and then I reached out to Jamie at Dead Dodge Garage. I don't know Jamie, never met Jamie before in my life, but I can tell from watching his videos that he knows more about Mopars than I probably ever will. And lo and behold, he responded, I think within a couple hours. And so we had a little exchange on the old emails. And yeah, he verified it's got to be an RB engine. He says, oh, by the way, pump the brakes, because he had this happen on a 57 Coronet, maybe, similar situation. And he says, I learned that in about 1962, Dodge changed the back end of the crankshaft where it bolts up to the torque converter. And so that throws a wrinkle in things. So now we're looking for an RB engine from 58 to 62. Well, they made RB engines up through the late 70s, something like that. However, in our little exchange, he says, I never got to follow through, but my plan, had I continued down that road, would have been possibly take a late model RB engine, 413, 440, pull the crank out, put the crank in from the early 383 RB engine, pull everything together, and run it. In theory, sounds like a perfect plan. I don't see any problems with it. So, thank you, Jamie. That is now our plan. Now, we do know we have an undersized crank. It's had some machine work, but the positive thing is I bought brand new bearings for it. So we should be okay there. We have spare heads. Our heads look really good. And it's actually going to help us out on the top end because we don't have to go hunt up a B block 4-barrel intake. The 413 or 440 that we end up with will accept our 383 RB intake, and all the other little dress-up items, the golden lion valve covers, the exhaust manifolds, all those should screw on. The difference from 383, 413, 440 is bore, not stroke. So life should be pretty good. Now, question comes, where are you going to find one of these? Well, it just so happens the old Winnebagos that your grandparents drove to Woodstock and did naughty things in, a lot of them were powered by either a 413 or 440 RB engine. Now, we're in the middle of the heartlands in Nebraska, and we found a couple. And the really nice thing about these particular engines and where we're finding them is that these motorhomes, even though they're old and crusty and rotted and fallen down around the chassis and the engine, literally, they usually have really low miles. We're looking at things between 50 and 75,000 miles. And the darn things will still start up and run. So you can look, see, hear them run before you even toss Benjamins at the dude or dudette selling it. So that's the plan. I think it's going to work. The customer is on board to move forward. So we find ourselves officially in the market for a 413 or a 440 with an automatic transmission. So the Saratoga's back in storage with its owner. We're going to find us a 413 or a 440. We'll get it all cleaned up, torn down, then we'll bring the Saratoga back, do the old crank swap, make sure everything looks happy, and this Saratoga will run and drive again. So once again, I can't thank Jamie at Dead Dodge Garage enough for his insight and helpfulness. Thank you all for watching our stuff. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we will catch you on the next video.